Welcome to Charity Therapy, the podcast where we explore the ups and downs of the nonprofit sector and answer your burning questions. I'm your host, Jess Birkin, owner of Birkin Law Office, and I'm excited you're here. Imagine hanging out with me and my super smart, funny nonprofit expert pals. You get to ask them anything about your nitty-gritty nonprofit life and get their wisdom for free. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just strapping on your nonprofit boots, we're here to share stories and remind you you're not alone on this journey. So get ready to join the conversation and bring me the tough questions. I ain't scared. Ready to rock? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Charity Therapy. I'm here with Megan. Hey, Megan.
Hey, Jess. How's it going?
You know, I'm tired, man.
Sometimes it's like moving through jello, but we're still here,
Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's been a long week.
Yep.
I'm tired.
Yep.
The compassion fatigue is high, but we're here.
But we're here.
Getting through it. We're doing it.
Sometimes feeling tired and still showing up is all you can do. And speaking of that, do you know who does that? Volunteers, board members.
Yeah.
How's that for a transition?
That was really good.
Segue.
That was a pro move.
Anyways, today we're going to talk about boards and specifically about like what the role of the board really is. And I talk to a lot of our new clients up front, and I'm always struck by how different a board can look depending on the kind of organization it is, right? Like a small, all volunteer run cat rescue, their board looks very different than a multi-million-dollar organization who's been around for 50 years. It's like you wouldn't even realize they technically have the same title within the nonprofit complex. So despite the fact that they look really different, Jess, can you tell us what the job of the board really is?
I feel like this is a philosophical question. I mean, I guess fundamentally their job is to make sure that the mission happens and that resources that the nonprofit brings in are leveraged against that mission. Ultimately, that's the job. And it, like you said, it looks different. If you're a tiny organization, making sure the mission's happening might look like rolling up your sleeves and doing the work. The giant orchestra, it looks like sitting at a conference table and maybe reviewing some financials or doing a strategic planning meeting every so often. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like the work can be very different, but the responsibilities are the same, or the fact that the buck stops with the board is the same for all organizations.
The buck stops with the board.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Ultimately, they got to make sure that the mission's happening and laws are being followed and the resources are being used right.
Yep. Well, that's the perfect setup for our question today. So let's just launch straight into it. So
let's go.
The listener writes in and says, my wife is on the board of a small arts organization, and she's starting to feel like something weird is going on. The board hasn't met since she was elected 10 months ago, and there are no board meetings scheduled. The ED sends a board update email once a quarter, but that's it. She wants to raise the issue, but she's not sure what the requirements are. Is there a minimum number of board meetings that are legally required? It feels odd that they could go a full year without a meeting.
Maybe leave.
Yeah.
That's my... You're a volunteer. You can walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this doesn't bode well.
Yeah.
It's not a good look right off the top. We don't have a lot to go off of here. Very obviously not a working board.
Yeah.
Somebody's doing the work. It's not this board.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a small arts organization, but I'm going to assume there's some kind of staff, executive director, plus obviously they said that the ED is sending reports. So something is happening, but it is concerning that there has not been a board meeting in 10 months. God, I'd love to know more about why did you join? What was the circumstance?
Like how many board members are there? Like what's,
Yeah. I want more info. I want more info, but working with what we've got, the question is, do you raise the issue? And I think you do, because you said yes, and now you're on the hook.
Yeah.
Right. And so now you're a board member and you have fiduciary duties. And that involves making sure that the organization is following its own policies and following the law. Now, this person doesn't say what state they're in, But in my experience, the minimum number of board meetings that you can get away with in most states is one.
Yeah.
Like
per
usually
year.
the state statute is like you must have at least one meeting once a year, right? But if your bylaws say something else, then that's what you should be following. So first question is, does this director have a copy of the bylaw?
Yeah.
Because, we were just dealing with a client last week, where people on the board were running around trying to make bylaws because they thought there weren't any, but it just turns out nobody ever gave them a copy.
Yep.
Right? So first I would say, hey, I'm a new director. Where do we keep our governance documents? I just want to make sure that I educate myself about the organization. So you should be looking for articles, bylaws. You can go on the IRS website, pull out the last 990s. There should be some sort of financial statement. You should have access to all those things, and that shouldn't be a weird ask as a director. And then once you have the bylaws in hand, look and see what it says. Does it say how many times a year you're supposed to meet? Are you supposed to meet quarterly? And we're just kind of being a little loosey-goosey with the meeting. And the meeting has sort of devolved to the ED sends an email, because that's not really appropriate.
Yeah.
You should at least be meeting once a year to review what has gone on and what the plan is to go on for next year. I would expect the board is at least reviewing and approving an organizational budget once a year, and they should be reviewing and approving the filing of the 990 tax form once a year. And those things aren't at the same time.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's 2 meetings right there, because your year end is one thing and then the IRS stuff is due 5 months later. So probably be meeting at least twice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a problem. I would raise the issue, and you can find out what the requirements are by doing those things. The other issue is, how much time do you want to put into this?
Right. Yeah. So that was going to be something I flagged here, is that if she is new to the board, and it sounds like maybe the only new one to the board, just by the way the tenor of this question, you don't want to, it's hard to be the new person who's like, y'all are breaking the law. You're doing something wrong. I'm coming in here to tell you that you've been doing this for a while and it's wrong. So it's like a hard position to put yourself in, even if you know that you're right. And it's just like, do you want to put yourself in that position? Like, is that something you want to take on?
Well, okay. How many times have we seen where it says small arts organization, and it's not mission specific, just the small organization piece, where we have our charismatic founder who's running off and doing all the work. And I would not be surprised to find out that the board is made up of like people who just are friends, family, fans of our charismatic leader.
Yep.
And they're kind of not, like they're just there because legally this person needed a board, and they were like, hey, can you do this for me?
Yep.
And they said yes.
Yeah. And they don't know what their responsibilities are to the organization, or they are like trusting the founder to do what is right, and are not really wanting to do the whole due diligence.
Right. And if everybody's just been sort of like, yeah, the director sends us an email about what's been going on and we're all good with that, and you come in being like, actually, we need to be doing blah, 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 blah. Hey, if you want to go there and you want to do that and you want to help this organization level up, get after it.
Yeah.
But remember your people skills while you're doing it, because you got a whole group of complacent folks here who may not be interested. In which case, I'm like, just remember, you are a volunteer and you can walk away.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to continue. So if it's making you uncomfortable, you're not doing the right things, you're not executing fiduciary duties, you're not following your bylaws, you're not following the law, you can let folks know that you're going to step out because you're not comfortable with the amount of liability that the board has right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Totally reasonable.
Just saying.
Like, you're within your rights to say something, and you're also totally reasonable to say, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. I think give it the old college try, as they say.
Yeah.
Try and bring people around and see where you can get, because probably these people just don't know.
Yeah.
They just don't. They probably have no idea.
No, they've
what
just been
their
doing it
actual
like
obligations
this.
are.
Like it just sort of naturally evolved into this, and no one was intentionally like, we're not going to tell the board what's going on. The board doesn't care. Like, more than likely, it just like through the time of working, this is what ended up happening. And we're not intentionally trying not to follow the rules here.
Yep.
So I have a curveball follow-up question that this person is not asking, but I'm asking. Could a board update email ever be considered a board meeting? Like, at what point is like, because I know that we have talked to some clients about doing board actions over email or things like that, but like, what does that look like? And like, what's the difference between like a board meeting and just like conversation among the board over email or something like that?
Okay. So this is like really, it depends on what state you're in, right? However, I don't think that there's ever a reality where a one-way communique from the executive director saying, this is what's up, counts as a meeting.
Yeah.
I think any lawyer worth their salt, any assistant AG in any state is going to be like, a meeting looks like you are live in some way. You have a discussion. So like, here in Minnesota, where we're sitting, the statute's really clear around what it means and what you can do for remote meetings. And you can do it online. You just have to facilitate the meeting in such a way that all of the people at the meeting have the ability to, in real time, discuss, right? You can't just have like some people are like watching the meeting, but they have no ability to participate. Meanwhile, these other people get to do all the voting. Like that wouldn't count. The law in this state requires that everyone has the opportunity at the same time to be discussing something, because a one-way communication does not allow for discussion.
Yeah.
Also, a one-way communication does not sound like there's anything being asked of them.
Yeah.
Which gets to your question about like, what's a written action?
Yeah.
So yes, you could take, depending on your state law, this is all depends on your statute. Most states allow some sort of action without a meeting at the board level, at least. I'm not talking about voting members right now. Board level, you can vote on something over email or you can circulate a memo and have people sign off on it or whatever. But there typically are rules around that. And a one-way communication is not a written action. It's just a communication. Like the whole thing about written action is the board is doing something, deciding something, reviewing, discussing, and approving or denying something. The act in the word action is missing from these communiques, status updates. I think status updates are great. That's fantastic. Love it. But also, they probably should get together and, maybe have a say. Because how do you defend yourself and say, yeah, I am making sure, I don't know, but here's the thing. I was just having drinks with Kim Lowe, who's like another nonprofit attorney. She's amazing. We got to have her on the podcast, by the way. She's got to come and be a guest. She said she would. And we were talking about like, breach of fiduciary duty. Like, what are you going to do? You get these groups where they're fighting and saying, you're breaching your fiduciary duty. And it's like, what's your remedy? That's why I kind of go to, you can always walk away.
Yep. Yeah.
Because what are you going to do? Spend money on taking the board to court? No.
Well, and that's the ultimate thing here is, yes, the role of the board is to make sure that the mission is being carried out and all of that kind of stuff, but it's a little squishy about like exactly how or like what that looks like. So there's a lot of room for argument about how to do things. And like that doesn't bode well for this kind of conversation. Like it just makes it easy for you to devolve into arguing rather than actually getting anything done.
Yeah. Well, and this, I mean, you can't even argue if you're just getting an email update.
Right.
So there's that.
Right. 100%. It's like,
it's peaceful.
It's one of these things where it's like, how much do you want to think that, half these board members don't actually read the update? It's like we all miss an email.
That's the other thing.
So it's like, even if you received this update, there's no guarantee that anyone's actually looking at it.
Yeah, because even if you want to make the argument, you know what? We've delegated budget approval to the ED. And we are totally comfortable with status updates being our board meeting. Well, how are you going to verify, validate that you're even reading the email? Right? Part of having the meeting is to be like, yes, I was here. I upheld the duty of loyalty, the duty of obedience. I showed up. I did my job. So maybe they're all replying and then logging those replies with like, sounds good, great work.
Feels
or
unlikely.
something, but yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah. And those duties, I'll link an article we have about fiduciary duties for any board member that's like, what are you even talking about? But yeah, to say that you actually fulfilled your responsibilities, your legal responsibilities to the organization.
Yeah. So what do we got here, Megan?
I got a couple things.
What's the wrap up?
Yeah. First, the role of a nonprofit board is really to make sure that you are carrying out your mission and using, donated funds appropriately. And that is true regardless of what kind of board you are, whether you are a working board or a governing board, whether you meet weekly or twice a year. Secondly, there is no universal, you have to meet this number of times legally in statute everywhere. A lot of states will say at least one time a year for a board meeting is the bare minimum, but best practice is as often as it takes in order to fulfill your fiduciary duties, which is probably more than one time a year. So if a board is not meeting, we're likely looking at something that we're not able to fulfill those fiduciary duties. And last, if you are in a situation on a board that is kind of absent and not meeting or fulfilling those, you have a couple options. You can absolutely try to approach and, make your case to the board about why we should be meeting more. And you're a volunteer, and you can also walk away and find another organization to be involved with, because it can be an uphill battle to change the culture in that way.
Yeah. And I would just add to that, like, if you are going to quit, like, make it a noisy exit. Not that you have to be a jerk about it, but state your reasons.
Yeah.
So that because you have a duty right now.
Yeah.
And so at least express the reason why you're leaving is because we're not doing things well and nobody seems interested in doing it right. I think that is all you can do.
Yeah. It's a good way to show that you took your responsibility seriously, and maybe it'll inspire other board members to do the same after you depart.
Right. Well, folks, if you've got a board that isn't doing jack,
sleeping at the wheel.
I'm like, do I want to swear right now? I don't know. Share this episode with them. If you are the person who's like, I joined this board and what the hell is happening? This is a great episode to share with your colleagues, because I'm laying it out for you right here. So leave us a rating, share it with a friend, subscribe on your podcast app. It really does help us out. It helps people find the show. If you have a question or a story to share, please send it in. I want to hear the juicy goss anonymized about your nonprofit. Let's go. Please send it in online at charitytherapy.show. And thanks for listening.